Hey guys, Trey Bender here with Program Stories, and today I'm sitting here with Miss Krista Belcher. And Krista, you and I actually attended Carolina Springs at the same time, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
We did. We didn't have any real interaction though, so
No.
there was none of it really wasn't allowed. We probably had a seminar together or something and just didn't really know it.
Yeah, we couldn't really talk or anything, but definitely a seminar too.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so Krista, I want to start from the beginning. Tell us how it all started.
So I arrived at Carolina Springs when I was 12 years old, beginning of November, right before my 13th birthday. And the reason that I was sent there was because I was pretty disrespectful to my parents. I had some hard time adjusting to my I was moving, went to a new school, had to make new friends, did some things to try to fit in that, weren't the best. Tried to get approval from other people and just didn't genuinely know who I was. And I think now looking back at all that, it really all was directly because of my ADHD.
Okay.
I think that I didn't know how to manage it. I think my parents didn't know how to manage it either, but I was diagnosed. And it was the biggest reason why I was sent away.
Okay. What year?
I was there from '01 to '04.
Wow,
Mm-hmm.
3 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. 12 to 15.
Okay. Jeez.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us kind of what happened when you first got there.
When I first got there, I was taken to the front office where the director was, and there was another staff member. When I arrived, I was under the impression that I was just doing a tour of the school. So I was just checking it out, and my parents were potentially interested in boarding schools for high school. I was definitely not going to be attending there if I had a choice.
Okay.
So we were checking it out when the staff asked if I was a new student. My parents were saying yes. At the same time, I was saying no. My parents started crying. At that moment, I realized I was staying there, and I tried to run out the door. And I tried to push my stepdad blocked the door, and I tried every ounce of fight in me to get through. Don't know where I would have gone because we were in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
But I tried, and that's when I believe two staff members took me arm in arm and walked me down to the dorms.
Oh man.
Hmm. And
All
I
right.
actually had a Happy Meal with me, and they told me to bring it with me because that was the last time I'd be eating anything like that. And it just blows my mind that like I was so young that I had a Happy Meal.
Wow.
Hmm. Yeah.
Jeez, you were that young and having this happen to you.
Yeah.
All right. So after this happened to you, what happened next?
Um, I had to change into, the yellow clothes and the upper level area with the staff. After that, I was sent to the cafeteria or school and I was given a buddy. Honestly, a lot of my memory is so spotty throughout my whole time there. And also just the beginning thinking about those things that happen. I remember I was on a buddy system for 3 days where you had to learn these really, really intense, excessive rules. And the day that I was off of the buddy system, I mean, I was hammered with like numerous corrections. I can't even tell you how many corrections I was given because I couldn't. It was hard for me to follow the rules. It was hard for me to figure out how to work the program because of my ADHD.
Gotcha.
So I was constantly in worksheets. I was constantly getting consequences. I felt, I couldn't do anything right there. I believe that they put me on the buddy system again for a second time, but that didn't, it didn't really change anything. 3 days on that sort of critical um, learning that new role there, that's not possible to learn that in three
Not at
days.
all.
So I really, really struggled doing that, and I was the youngest, and I was the youngest there. So most of the kids that I was around were 14 to 16, 17, 18. So I was really, really young, and it was really hard for me to um, understand the rules. And I think I was also targeted a lot because of my age.
I want to talk about that, with your age. When you say you were targeted a lot, like, what do you mean? Like, what would happen? How would they target you? And who would do it?
Staff and students. As a student, we had to go after other students and we had to give them corrections. That's the only way we were able to move up in the program. So um, it was it wasn't just upper levels, it was all levels really that have, asked me to be accountable for consequences. At any point, staff as well. I think staff mainly. I think they more targeted me. I think they saw me as like young and weak and easy to target, and I think that the staff in general just got a thrill off of seeing kids in pain. And I think that, I think they just had fun doing it. I think that there was a few people that they picked to treat like that, and I was one of them.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And this was the staff that was doing this to you?
Oh yeah, big time. I can't tell. I was in worksheets every day for months, maybe year and a half. Like, I mean,
Wow.
constantly. And then when I got up to level 4 and dropped, I was back in OP and worksheets on a consistent basis at that point, refusing. So, yeah.
I want to talk about staff. Do you feel like these people should have been working with teenagers at all?
No, not one of them. There's not one staff member that should have been working with children, and most of them had children, and that's what blows my mind. If I were a staff member, there's no way I could have children and work with children, seeing how they were treated on a daily basis by male staff, female staff, and their peers. It's just really, really sad. I think none of them were educated. None of them were properly trained with any mental health. Um, I just think that maybe if they had, other sort of things to teach them besides just how to restrain us, maybe it would have been a little bit more beneficial, to have staff that cared about us. But they didn't even care. They didn't care how we felt, if we were crying ourselves to sleep at night, or, that we couldn't see our parents for long, long, long periods of time. They didn't understand how it affected us,
Wow. Do you feel like your peers were targeting you? Like, how would they target you? What would they do?
Yeah, peers definitely targeted me. If it weren't corrections, it were feedback. So we had to consistently be open to feedback, negative feedback, positive feedback, and we always had to give our peers negative feedback. And we had to give our friends negative feedback, or we would be put on challenges to be separated from the only people we would get along with there. So I think that, those are ways that I was targeted. Once I found somebody, I didn't click with a lot of people. And once I did click with someone, then another peer would call us out being too close to each other and put us on a challenge to not talk to each other, when we really didn't even talk that much anyway, because we were on silence for 23 plus hours a day. So, yeah, I think that was a way that they, drove us apart and tried to break us down. The small amount of friendship that we started to develop, they tried to destroy it, or us, with negative feedback, just constantly breaking us down.
Okay, tell me about this being on silence 23 hours a day. Explain to me how that worked.
So we were on silence all the time, except for maybe a half an hour a day, where we could speak, but level 1 and 2 could not talk to each other. We had to have a level 3 present. So
Gotcha.
Sometimes if we weren't friends with a level 3, then we just didn't talk at all. So there was a lot of times, even if we were off silence, we couldn't talk. Now, not only not talking, we couldn't non-verbally communicate. So I couldn't look at you and look at something else like that and try to tell you something with my eyes, or try to point at something, or try to mouth words, or do anything that would gesture communication. I mean, you couldn't do anything. You had to look straight forward and not make any sort of gestures, or you're non-verbally communicating.
Really?
Yeah.
At your young age, what was school like?
School was all independent study, and we had to teach ourselves everything. So I was in middle school when I went. So it was really just reading a book, taking the test, and if you failed it, then you memorized it and then retook it. Like, it was all off of memorization for me. It was not off of learning. I didn't learn anything there, and it really, really set me up for failure coming home. I really struggled in high school, in college, in any sort of criteria with educational and academics. I severely struggled because of having to be there teaching myself for 3 years and not learning anything.
I can agree with that because, when I was there, I remember doing the same thing and just memorizing the answers on those tests.
Mm-hmm.
We used the same tests.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all memory to me. And you know what? I struggled with that too when I came out of there, and school was very hard for me, having come from that self-paced program.
Mm-hmm. And it's not accredited either.
No.
So, people that graduated from high school there, didn't even get their diploma. But for me, when I went to school, when I came home, there was a lot of classes that they didn't even acknowledge as credits when I came back. So I was actually held back a year.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd say school was a joke.
It was a total joke.
Total joke. And what are some other things that stand out that happened to you while you were there? Like, is there any particular incident that you remember? Any negative interaction with the peers or other students?
Yeah, all the time. There was whether it was the seminars, which were absolutely horrific, and I have a lot of trauma from the seminars,
Okay.
and I lost a lot of memory from them. So those were probably some of the most horrific times
Okay.
that I had there, the most psychological abuse I've ever endured. But the silence in general, calling out your peers, not being able to see your family, all that mixed in together is torture. And, it was all just it was just all bad. I'm trying to think of a specific time, though, that was just really, really awful. I guess when I dropped from level 4 to 1, that was bad. Like,
what caused this drop in the levels?
I had like a program boyfriend.
Oh, okay,
so,
okay. And I think this particular boyfriend, I think I have a good idea who you're talking about.
Yes.
Which is totally cool.
Yes, and I think you guys were friends there too.
I just want to say, me and this particular guy, we were very good friends.
Mm-hmm.
Very much. And that's normal.
Mm-hmm.
That's normal.
Yeah, so
let's hear what happened.
We were very, very sneaky. So, we figured out how to sit in the same seat at meals, and we note passed under the rails and the tables. So we were the reason why the tables had to get flipped. We note passed in between tests, English 6, chapter 11. And we would get we were on probation, we would get the other upper levels to pull it out for us. So there were a couple people who knew about it. No passing at the horse stables, had his teddy bear. What caused me to drop was I had carved his initial into my hip, just the letter of his first name, with a comb. Okay, all right, my one friend did the same thing, and it was, so it happened. I had gotten told on, and they had actually, it was so low you couldn't see it. They had to remove my clothing to find it.
Oh, wow.
So I had tried to just, I was like, see, there's nothing there, and they removed my clothing to find it.
Tell us how this happened. Were you taken into a room?
I was taken into the upper level room.
Okay.
In the girls' dorm, and it was another staff member and an upper level that was in the room when they did this.
So, how did they do it?
They literally just pulled my pants down. Without and at that point, I was there for so long, I didn't even feel like it wasn't my body anymore either. I didn't feel like it was wrong because, because of where I was, I felt like they owned me at that point.
How long had you been there when this incident happened?
For 2 years, for almost 2 years, maybe a year and a half, almost 2 years, because it took me a very long time to move up in the program. So I had been there a while, I was finally getting it, and I went all the way back to level 1 from level 4 and had to start all over again. And I knew I was not going to leave until I graduated.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So I started refusing at that point.
I just think you telling me that you thinking it was okay for them to just do that to you, you had been traumatized and brainwashed to that point.
Mm-hmm.
This was just commonplace there, though.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You said that somebody you had been told on.
Yes.
Okay. I want to ask you about this. Was it commonplace to be told for
Yes, it was
okay.
definitely common.
How did that work,
I've done it too, and I am still still to this day. I wish I could contact the girl and apologize to her. I've actually tried to reach out to her. She doesn't use social media a lot, and um, kids did it. I did it when I was a level 1 or 2, and I had to do it to show staff to trust me and to have them, start moving me up in levels, to start working my program, to call somebody out on a big violation like that. You are dropping someone, which is actually getting the staff paid an incentive. So they're gonna treat you better because
Really?
they didn't have to drop the student. You did it for them. So all their pay was getting off of their head count, the family reps. So they were incentivized by their head count.
I see. So I want to talk about your particular family rep, and I get a feeling that's going to be a bit of a touchy subject.
Yeah, my family rep was, in my opinion, was the worst out of all of them. They were all horrific. Mine in particular, she was known for the highest retention rate and to have the most kids to graduate.
I've heard that before about this particular person too.
She has the ability to brainwash to brainwash the family so much that they make you stay until you graduate. I stayed for a very, very long time. A lot of kids got pulled at their 1 year mark, or 3 months or whatever it was. Not in this family. This family, you are there at the minimum a year. Minimum.
Krista, I know who you're talking about, and I've talked to other people who were there with us when we were there. And you're not the first person to tell me about this. You're not the first person to tell me about how this particular family rep was able to keep the young women entrusted in her care. And I want to tell you something about this particular person because I want you to know I've had some run-ins with this person later in life. And I've asked her point blank how much harm she thinks she did in the lives of young women, and she refuses to explain herself.
I'd love to know her answer.
You would love to know her?
Oh my God, I would love to know, because she definitely portrays herself as this person who's super nice and caring, and she's very gently spoken.
Yes.
So a lot of people think that she's a good person, and she's not. She's lied to my parents about, I don't know if she said she was a therapist or a social worker or what she said she was. I don't believe she was any of them.
Knowing this particular person, there is something I do want to ask while you talk about how she was like that. Do you think that she portrayed her good looks and used that to her advantage when she was doing this?
Oh, big time. I think she flaunted herself like you wouldn't believe. But the thing was, I don't think anyone liked her. Really? I don't think any of the male staff liked her. I don't think any of the family reps liked her, male or female. I think that she was kind of, at least that's just what I picked up. I think she was kind of like the oddball.
Really?
I think so. In the staff, yeah, because I always heard female staff constantly talking badly about her.
What kinds of things would they say?
I don't really remember. I just knew that they would be annoyed when she would show up, or be like, oh, here she comes. They would make sure to change their attitude and how they were when she was showing up, because she was just, if they weren't doing what I guess she expected, I think maybe they were scared she would go tell upper management or the director or something if something wasn't the way she expected it to be when she arrived at the dorms.
Really? How often would you see this particular person?
Every day.
Every day?
Yeah, we had groups multiple times a day, and she was in the group in the afternoon. And also if we went up to the office for phone calls or, any sort of things that she needed to call us to the office for, I'd see her then too. and have a one-on-one.
Back then, when you were in her care, what was your relationship like with her? Back then.
I mean, I had to kiss her butt. She was my ticket out. Like, you know, I was never mean to her. I was never mean. I was never disrespectful. I would have done anything she told me to do. So I can't, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. You know, I didn't, you know, I respected her. And I still stayed there for that long. You know, I couldn't, there was nothing I could do. I respected all staff, really. When I started refusing, it wasn't disrespecting staff. It was just not wanting to follow rules. But, you know, I didn't treat her poorly.
Okay. So you kind of knew it was always in your best interest to walk on eggshells around her.
Mm-hmm.
And she definitely used her pretty privilege.
Yeah.
Okay. I know.
And got rid of a lot of my letters being sent home.
Tell me about this. How would she do this?
So any of the letters incoming, outgoing are always read. Either the ones my parents are writing or the ones I'm writing. They are read and either disposed of or a permanent marker written on any of the things that they don't want the parents or us to read. My letters, I haven't seen anything with permanent markers, so I believe a lot of those letters were just thrown. You know, if we were manipulating or we were saying anything negative about the program, or we were talking about an event that happened or anything like that, then it would not get sent home.
Your mail was screened while it was going out that way.
Mm-hmm.
What about incoming mail?
Same. When we got our mail was cut open, and when we sent our mail out, we could not lick it shut.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Did your parents ever think that this kind of thing was some sort of red flag?
I don't think so. I think that they thought it was normal, and I think that they believed that when the family rep said we were manipulating to go home and we were lying, they believed the family reps because we were troubled kids. You know, we were gonna say anything to go home is how they set it up.
Do you think your parents had any idea of what was really going on?
I want to say no. My heart wants to say no because I am not angry at my parents for sending me there. However, upon, you know, I discovering things and class action lawsuits that were going on while I was in there, they had to have known. They had to have. They had to have known something. If not at my facility, at another facility. And if they don't question, is it happening at mine? You know, I don't know.
I understand that. You know, you really like to think that your parents really had no idea. You know, I feel like my mother really was blindsided by a lot of things when she came and saw that place. So I think that in a lot of aspects, my parents really didn't know. But, you know, you think yours.
My parents saw the place. They dropped me off. So they saw the staff, they saw the facilities, they saw how we were living, they saw the bathrooms, you know, I mean, they saw it all. And I don't know. I don't know how you can make an excuse that those are like acceptable living conditions.
I want to talk about the living conditions now. As you know, we weren't really allowed any real interaction. I want you to tell us about, if you could describe the girls' dorm back at that time, how would you describe it?
I mean, it's, you know, it was foul, it was disgusting. There was mold everywhere. The carpets, I think, were just the original carpets from whenever, you know, they opened the place. Everything smelled of mildew. At one point, our septic tank actually overflowed from tampons, and we had to clean it all up. There was like 3 to 4 large rooms in a triple wide trailer that made up our dorm. And then one area that was a step up, and it was like kind of another smaller room. And there were about almost 100 girls there. I think at times, I think it fluctuated sometimes down to 70, but there were almost 100 girls there. And when social services would come by to do a head count, they would split us all up into different areas to try to confuse them, and then they would rip beds off. So they'd rip sheets off of beds and throw it in compo to make the head count look smaller as well.
Yep.
Yep.
I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
My
yeah.
bed was gone one time, and when that happens, you think you're going home. When your bed is stripped, you think you're going home. I had this moment of like, oh my God, are my parents here? Am I about to go home? No, they're just hiding my bed from social services.
I actually remember when that happened. I was there when that happened too. And I remember that day very vividly. And I know exactly what you're talking about because they did the same with us. I remember that. The sheer fact that something like this was just able to happen. The dorm you described, though, like, just hearing that's just unheard of. All right, I want to talk about the cafeteria and mealtime. Tell us about that. Like, how would you go for the dorms? How many times a day would you go back and forth? And how would that start?
We would go for every meal, so we would count off. Before every meal, we'd walk up the way to the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And also we would school. So either one, I think we only went to school once a day. So we would walk up there for school too. During that walk, boys were outside. We had to put our heads down. We couldn't look at them. And for meals, it went off of a level system.
Okay.
So most of the time I was a level 1. So I was usually one of the last people to get my meals. Now as level 1, you can't have condiments, no salt, pepper, and no ketchup, mustard, and no juice. You can only have water. And also, as soon as you got your food, within like 5 minutes, it's time to leave. So you would have to also have at least 50% of your food done, or you would have a correction, and you'd have to go up and clear your tray and put it away within that time to then go back down to the dorm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys walked up and down that road, rain, snow, everything.
Yep.
And what did you think about that when you were walking all these times a day?
I mean, I just thought this is my life. Like, I just thought this is what I was going to be doing. I didn't see a way ever out. Like, I didn't see myself ever living outside of the program. I just saw myself being there every day. And, when I would walk up that place, I would think to myself, I think about the future girls that were going to be walking the same road and doing the same thing that I was doing. And, even if I see pictures, I can just imagine walking that road again and that gravel under my feet. We wore like flip-flops with socks, and like I'm talking like thong flip-flops. Like, yeah. We couldn't wear shoes. If we wore shoes, we didn't have tennis shoes. So,
why couldn't you wear shoes?
Because we might run. So,
yeah.
But there's also nowhere to go. So that's one regret I have, is not running.
Something, I want to tell you something that stands out to me. I remember when I first got there, and I had some really nice shoes on, and I took them off and handed them to the people checking me in, and they took the laces out. Were you guys made to take your laces out too?
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember when they did or how it happened, but yeah, they took my laces out the second I got there, or my parents packed me shoes that I had to put on right then. I don't, remember, but yeah, the second you get there, they will take your laces right away.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Whether you're gonna run or harm yourself, they're both high possibilities.
So you never ran away?
No, I wish I did. And that's something that I still struggle with to this day. I don't run. I just submit, and it's a regret that I have. It's something that I still struggle with, and I wish that, I could fight,
I get that. I really do.
You know, I wish I fought for myself then.
Did you ever see anybody run away?
All the time. All the time. And I was like, wish that they took me with them. I'm like, why didn't you guys let me in on the secret? Like, come on. Like, I'm ready to go with you guys. But,
Yeah, I know.
you know, I never had friends that were ready to, you know, run. But at that, I was scared. Like, you know, you get threatened. I was threatened every day. If I run, I'm either getting eaten by a bear or the neighbors are going to shoot me. Because if they see me and they know who we are, they're going to shoot us. And there's nowhere to go. You know, I mean, there's nowhere to go. So
we got the same thing. We got the same threats. But speaking of threats, were you ever threatened with being sent to
high impact.
High Impact
Yep.
or Tranquility
Yep.
Bay?
Yep.
Or
where there's no child labor laws. Yep. Constantly.
How often would that threat be used?
Almost every day.
And who would be doing the threat?
Staff.
All the staff.
Mm-hmm.
What about the family representative you told us about?
To be honest, I don't think she did. And if she did, I don't think she did to me.
Okay.
And I believe that it was most likely because I was so young, and my parents would have never allowed for me to be sent there. So they say. However, it's really not up to my parents since they signed over guardianship. They, you know, the facility could have done whatever they wanted.
Yes. I was threatened with Tranquility Bay a lot by my family rep, and I understand that. But I was also threatened with it from staff too. It was like their go-to threat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, during your time there, has the trauma affected you in your adult life, and how so?
Yeah. Ever since the day that I left. Because one, I didn't know how much trauma I had endured. I was given no sort of mental health therapy upon coming back home. And maybe if I was, maybe I would have realized how traumatized I was. Maybe that therapist wouldn't have been able to dig and figure out what happened at that school. Anytime I had therapy, you know, decade after that, you know, they asked if I had childhood trauma, and I said no, because she could see the childhood trauma. I'm like, no, I don't have any trauma. And I would never brought the school up. Not once to any therapist did I ever bring the school up. So, you know, how it's affected me, it's like I've came home, I went into an abusive relationship when I was 16. I wasn't hanging around the best people. I moved out of my mom's as soon as I came home. I moved in with my dad.
Wow.
Because I could not, me and my mom could just kept butting heads. I guess I had so much trauma, and I had so many trauma responses, and I didn't know, and you know, we just couldn't get along. So I moved in with my dad, and I really kind of just did whatever I wanted. And I wasn't like necessarily bad, but ever since I came home, I was extremely independent. I've done everything on my own since then. And I've just gotten myself into some bad situations. I've made some bad choices because of the trauma that I went through that, you know, just created more and more pain. And now the past year, I've just started to heal from everything that I went through, recognize everything that I went through, learn that I was normal. I sat here and like thought for 20 years, I'm like, what is wrong with me? I'm like, why am I like this? Like, why, you know, do I react this way in some sort of situations, or why do I feel this way? Because I feel like it's not normal. And come to find out, all these feelings are normal for people with trauma. There are so many people that feel the same way that I do. There are so many people that had the same issues that I had when I was a kid, and it's normal. All of it's normal.
Absolutely.
God, like, it's just, you know, I finally think that I hit that point in my life where I'm not mad at myself anymore. I'm not mad at any of the decisions that I made. I'm okay with every decision I made in my life because you know, I've learned a lot, and I'm learning so much about like my ADHD and how it impacts me, like to this day, and you know, how it affects my adult life and how it affected my childhood. And now, you know, because there's things I'm mad at myself as an adult. I feel like I'm lazy or like a loser, or I can't, you know, I just can't get all these tasks done, or it's really hard to do like a 9 to 5. And I've lost some jobs before just because um, I couldn't learn the job properly because of my ADHD. And
You know something? I've really struggled with that too. And I want you to know you're not the only one. I've struggled with ADD my entire life. And because of that, I've had the same issues.
And then you mix that with disassociation, which is like huge of trauma. Like, I mean, I pretty much like, I can't, I've been like disassociated for like 20 years now, you know? I just haven't been able to be present and live in my life because I've been so anxious or so depressed or so worried. And now I'm living, and I'm living in the moment, and I still have my moments. You know, it's hard healing from this sort of trauma, but facing it head on is really, you know, it was really essential for me to get where I am now.
I want to ask something I'd been wondering. You know, being separated from boys at that young age, did that affect you later in life at all? Or did it have any effect on you then? How did you feel about it then? And how did it affect your life later on, if at all?
I think that I didn't think it affected me then, you know, because I had my little program boyfriend, and if you like looked at a boy, like then like they were your boyfriend, really. You know, but maybe that's kind of how like it's affected me now. Like I get along, you know, I kind of like I get a connection with a guy, and I'm just like, oh my god, like this is it, like he's it, you know, like I get like, you know, like hyper focused on one person, and it's probably too much, you know, it's probably too much, but that's probably one of the things that I struggled with then, you know, just I have social awkwardness in general. So I have things around relationships with whether it's communicating or being too independent or allowing to be a doormat, you know, there are things and those are the things in relationships I just struggle with now because of, and I wasn't given guidance. You know, on top of that, not only was I not given guidance because of the school, I wasn't given guidance from my family with relationships and that sort of thing. I kind of had to figure it all out on my own and get hurt on my own and heal on my own and move on my own. And I think I learned really young in the relationships I was in the abusive relationship that I was in. It did, in a sense, make me stronger. It did make me recognize things earlier, but I shouldn't have had to go through that.
No, you shouldn't have.
You know?
No. What are some tendencies that you find you have in your adult life from the trauma?
You know, I think one big thing is I have a really, really low patience. I think, you know, I have like a sensitivity to sound. If I hear like 2 or 3 sounds going on at once, it really disorients me, or makes me be very reactive. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because we were on silence, that created that for me. I still have a lot of nightmares. The PTSD, like I will think about an event or a situation or see a picture or talk to someone and be reminded of an event, and I will sit there and I will, you know, disassociate and get stuck in that event and almost like shake, you know, thinking about, even though it was, you know, 18 years ago, however long ago it was, and I know that I'll never be in that situation again. To think that I even experienced that, I don't think a lot of people understand how horrific a lot of this stuff was, and like it's just shook me. It just, you know, to think about my kid going through something like that, or another child going through something like that, it's unfathomable to me, and just makes me sad that I went through it. You know, it makes me so sad.
I want to touch on that too. Having gone through this at a young age and now being a mother yourself, has it affected your parenting style, or how do you feel it's shaped the way?
Oh yeah, I think it's definitely like, my son has his own mental health things, especially with ADHD. Um, and I'm coming from a way more understanding place of understanding how it is to
Gotcha.
have that. Um, I think it's made me a better mother. I think it's made me listen to my kids. I apologize to my kids. Um, and when they tell me something, I hear them and I acknowledge it and I take it in. I don't feel like I was very heard. Even now, even as an adult, I don't feel very heard or listened to. And I think that that's just important, even especially in the healing process. I think like your family is one of the biggest roles in the healing process and how they react to your healing.
Very much.
I think that that's a big, big role. And when they don't react well, it makes it a lot harder.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Wow. Just hearing some of these things you've been saying, geez, it's like I find myself relating.
Mm-hmm.
All right. When you got out, tell us kind of how you felt. Was it easy for you to be out, like as soon as you got out, or did you struggle? Like you were in for a long time.
Yeah, and
So what I'm trying to ask is, what was it like being in that structured environment and walking back and forth like you did every day and wearing those same clothes nonstop? That structured environment to just going right into the real world.
I mean, I think it was surreal. I didn't feel, the day that I was staying home and I wasn't taking the plane back to CSA, it didn't feel real. I didn't believe my parents that I wasn't going to the airport and sleeping in my bed that night. I think it took a long time to actually process that I wasn't going back there. When it came to school and everything, I don't know. I didn't necessarily see myself as different from the other kids, or I had a hard time fitting in. Was very socially awkward. I was not the type to approach people, and even when people did approach me, like I don't feel like I interacted like normally, like how normal like teenagers, I guess, acted, because I also didn't have like the normal hobbies that teenagers had because I didn't have any hobbies because I was sent away.
Yeah.
So it was definitely hard, especially not having the therapy too, like coming home and not having therapy, that was difficult because I couldn't process all those other things. But I can't say that it was something that at that moment I recognized because I think I was so detached. I was so detached from reality. And I just wasn't there. I had no connections to anything at that point.
Okay. When you got out of there and you were thrust back into a public school like that, what grade were you in?
I actually went to private school when I came home.
Okay.
And I went into 10th grade.
You went into 10th grade.
And I was supposed to be in 11th. And I went in halfway through 10th.
Can you tell us why?
Well, one was held back because of the credits. They were not counted for my school.
Okay.
And after that, I switched schools in the middle of every year until I graduated. So I switched about 3 different times because I don't know. I could not stay in one place. I almost wanted to, I guess, get a fresh start sometimes. I think that's what it was. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that I have kids because if I didn't, I probably would like be getting up and moving like constantly. And because I think that that's just, I don't want to stay in one place.
I know exactly what you mean. I think you'd...
Yeah, so you can't sit still either.
Yeah, I think that is a part of my problem. I don't have any kids, and I like to go places.
Yeah, but you know what? Like, enjoy it. Enjoy it. If I could enjoy that, I would, I think there's a difference of, wanting to like travel and enjoying it and running, If you're running, then, maybe there's something you have to like check out and look into it. But if it's just to like better yourself and to grow, you know, I want to travel. I want to start traveling this year alone and go to other countries. I'm a little nervous, but you know, it's somewhere where I'm at in my life where like I need to do these things for me, and um, I'm just excited for this new journey and all this stuff that I want to do. It's time I start living because I have just been surviving for ever since I went there.
I want to tell you something. I Some people know this about me, but I consider myself a well-traveled man,
Mm-hmm.
and I want you to know something. I think that's great. I think travel is one of the best things you can ever do for yourself because I did it for me,
Mm-hmm.
and it was one of the best things I ever did. It's the only thing you can buy makes you richer.
Mm-hmm.
Believe me.
Yep.
And I think if anybody would know about travel, it would be me.
Yeah, I just need to like get up with some groups or something so I'm not like alone, you know. I don't
Well, you
know.
know what, Krista, when you're ready to travel, I want you to reach out to me.
Okay.
And I want to help you with that.
Okay.
I want to show you everything there is to know about the travel industry.
All right. Well, I'm trying to book a trip to Puerto Rico, so I'll hit you up like right after this to figure all that out.
I definitely want to help you with that. And, you know, it really did wonders for me. And if it worked for me, I think it can work for you.
Mm-hmm.
Where's somewhere you'd like to go?
I want to go to Puerto Rico.
Okay.
I've been there before, but just on a cruise. I forget what area of Mexico, but an area in Mexico. I'd love to go to Peru too, but I don't
South
know.
America.
Yeah, I don't know how long the flight is. I have to look into that. I mean, I really want to go everywhere. You know, I'd love to go to Australia too. But that's not happening anytime soon. That's a very, very long flight. Bali would be Indonesia. I mean, all of them, they'd be great, but that's going to have to wait until my kids are a little bit older. But things that are around over here, I'm trying to, you know, see anything beautiful.
I'm going to tell you firsthand, a flight to Australia is a very long flight.
I know, my friend lived there.
I have friends there, and yes.
Yeah, he would have to take his whole family.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. 3 or 4 kids, like, no thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Krista, of all these things that happened to you, what's the one thing that you feel like has affected you well into your adult life? Something you struggle with every day? What would that be?
I think abandonment issues. I think that's probably, you know, the hardest thing from being sent there. Because, you know, not only was I abandoned there at a young age.
Yes, a very young age.
You know, it seems to have happened multiple times throughout my life, whether it's been from significant others, or, you know, issues have occurred again with family. You know, I've been on my own for as long as forever. I can really only truly count on myself. I don't know how I'm ever going to be able to trust somebody else or be in a relationship or do that sort of thing when I've been like I can only trust myself. I can only guarantee that I'm not going to pull the rug out from under me. And, you know, I know my intentions. Other people, you know, you never know. So I think it's scary, and it's hard to put my trust in somebody. And I like being alone too. You know, I do enjoy being alone because it does ensure me of not getting hurt in that sort of sense. I don't really have anybody else that can abandon me now. You know, at this point, no one else can abandon me, and I'm good. You know,
I get that. You know, I've struggled with that, and you know, I say this to pretty much everybody whenever I do an interview. That same thing, you know, I struggle with abandonment, and I went about a lot of things in the wrong way, and I'll admit to that. You know, I did, and I think, you know, it's just I would develop this persistence to where if I wanted something, I would keep going and going and going for it, no matter how many times I got knocked down. you know, I would say, you know, this is what I need to do for me, you know, I need to be there for me. So I get that.
I think not loving myself too, you know, I think thinking something's wrong with me and all that, that has definitely like spilled over into my whole adult life to now finally being able to take a pause and looking back and not being mad at myself for the choices and knowing it's normal and actually like giving myself that grace has made me able to, you know, love myself again. And it's
That's so
something
great.
that, like, you know, I don't think I felt that since I was a kid. I think I can tell myself that I did, you know, at some points throughout the 20 years, but I didn't. Like, I didn't know what it was because I was so, you know, had so much trauma that I didn't even know who I was. Like, I'm just starting at 32 figuring out who I am. So I couldn't have loved myself before because, you know, I was always mirroring who I was with, you know, what I was around, what boyfriend I was with. Their hobbies were my hobbies. Finally, I am figuring out what I like, who I am, and I would not trade it for the world. And I hope everybody else can
Okay.
find that.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell the audience that's going to be watching this video? What would you say?
You know, I think also I was given this trial and tribulation in my life, you know, to also help other people. I think I was also here to help people. So I've helped a lot of people that have gone to the program and other people that have just had, you know, issues and just needed somebody there for them. So it's something that I am looking into for my future, and it's the path I'm going down to be able to help others. So, you know, it's changed. This all has changed my life, you know.
Yes. These kinds of things, they change anybody's life. So yeah, I agree with that.
So my whole career path is changing, and I'm super happy about it. And yeah, if, you know, anybody I can help or anything, you know, please reach out to me if you need an ear. Like, I love talking to people and you know, being there for anybody. I love humans and being there. So
you know, I think that's great that you want to help others like that, Krista. You know, I really do. I really do. Last thing I want to ask you, if you could talk directly to this family representative. Well, wait a minute. Not quite the last thing, but I do want to ask you this. If you could talk directly to that family representative that you told me about earlier, what would you say to her?
I would want to know what possessed her to keep me there for so long and to lie about the progress I was making just for a paycheck. I was there for a very, very long time, and I think that she could have had the ability to say it's time for her to go. This isn't working anymore. It's not for her. And instead, she took a paycheck and continued some serious trauma in my life instead of being honest with my family. I think the biggest thing is she lied, and she didn't just lie about me, she lied about every single student there.
So you would say she did do harm in your life?
100%. 100%. She is, you know, she may have not laid a hand on me, and I'm not, you know, she did some serious emotional things as well. She did make me take accountability for a sexual assault. You know, so she's not innocent. She's definitely done a lot of harm. Yeah. And a lot of people in the program.
If you could talk directly to the former staff that you told me about earlier, the chaperones, what would you say to them?
You know, I know some of them knew what was going on. I just want to know why they kept coming into work every day. Why did they keep coming into work when they realized what was going on for, you know, pennies? They were not making any money, and they got off on what they did, is what I think. You know, I'd want to know. I'd really want the honest answer on them targeting kids and just throwing them into worksheets for the fun of it. I'd really love to know which ones did that and to who and when, because I know it was not for our own good.
If you could talk directly to the owners that lived up on the hill in that big house. You know, the house that had the RVs and the boat.
Yeah, I know. He's retired in Florida now.
Yeah. And the Mercedes SL 500 and the Lexus SUV. If you could talk directly to those owners, what would you say to them?
You know, they stole from me. They stole from my family. They stole the down payment on my first home. You know, I hope they don't sleep well at night. That's all I can say. I hope they don't sleep well knowing what they did to all these children.
And what do you have to say to the people who profit from this industry today? If you could talk directly to them, what would you say?
I want to know why they think they're helping people. Why they think abuse is helping people. How many kids have they seen this actually help? And how many kids have they seen lose their lives to suicide and overdose? And then I'd want to know how they can sleep at night knowing that, because we know the statistics.
Yes, we do.
And the amount of people that lose their lives is, I don't want to bury another sister. And I'm scared of who it's going to be next. And, you know, it's constant that somebody's passing away, and I don't know how they can sleep knowing that either. It's obvious. It's not even, it's just very, very clear. There's a lot of us don't make it.
You know, when you say losing people like that, I know what exactly some of these people, because you and I knew the same people. I think there's some in particular you and I are thinking about right now. Sorry. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
You know, I think that as much damage as, you know, WASP and the troubled teen industry has done on a lot of people involved, I think the community that I found within, you know, you guys, and, you know, the survivor community it's, you know, I love everyone, and I think that being able, I feel honored to be able to be a part of the community. So even though I went through these horrible, horrible things, to have the people in my life that I do now, I'm so grateful. So, you know, it's a really horrible experience, but I am able to help other people, and I'm extremely empathetic towards others and their feelings. I don't regret going. It's a really sad thing, and it's really sad that I lose people. And it's a really hard thing to deal with and to live with, and to be a prisoner in my own mind all the time. But I wouldn't change my life for anything. Yeah.
Krista, I just want to say thank you for coming and doing this today and helping me do this. You know, it's very brave that you did this. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming to Baltimore.
Yes, I did come all the way to Baltimore just to do this.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, long drive.
Yes, it was. It's not my first time coming to Baltimore, so I had this. But you know, thanks for doing this. You know, let you know how brave you are for doing this and speaking out.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, guys. Trey Bender here with Program Stories with Miss Krista Belcher here in Baltimore. Thanks, guys.